Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and have I got a huge report that I need to share with you, and one, quite frankly, that needs to go viral. Now, we know ever since Donald Trump was inaugurated in to be our president, and even before that, he's been rattling the feathers of many globalists across the country. Specifically, trade deals with China has ticked off a couple people in China, and also the United Nations, the globalist body who is run by a bunch of unelected officials, people that us in America have no say over. Now, with that, I wanted to do a report and kind of delve into those two things, the UN and China, and see exactly where we're standing, because I fear that there could be a retaliation effort from the UN on the US, depending on Donald Trump's actions, or China and the US. And I'm saying that for some pretty good reasons that I'm about to show you, because I followed the money trail and it's going to speak volumes. But before I get into that, let's say a few things for starters. Donald Trump, one slap against the globalist dictators like the United Nations, tyrannical organization. One thing that's really slapped them in the face and slapped them by surprise is Donald Trump was elected as our next president. Well, they didn't expect that. They didn't expect a nationalist, someone who actually loves his country and not globalism and New World Order crap, to come to power. Well, that's the first thing that they're not too happy about. A straight up nationalist has risen to power in the White House. Strike one. Strike two. We have House Resolution 193 on the table. Now, this resolution is the resolution to get the U.S. out of the UN, get the U.S. money out of the UN. And I did a report on this a few days ago, but is this resolution that has been on the table time and time again. For a few years, it's been on the table and Congress ignores it for the most part. But nonetheless, it's been re-put on the table again this year with Donald Trump in office. So there could be a slightly different turn on that. However, I don't foresee this House resolution being passed. I don't foresee it getting through. There's a minor possibility it could, but you never know. It has to go through Senate before it could even get to Donald Trump. It has to pass House, Senate, Congress. It has to get through all of that first. Now, with that, that strike two worries these globalists in the United Nations that it's even on the table and being addressed. That's got to chill these people to the core. And here's why. I'm going to reveal some more strikes in a moment, but here's why this is going to chill them to the core. Check out this report that I grabbed straight from the United Nations website, where it goes through the financial details of where this UN global dictating body gets their money. I bet you can guess who's on top. That's right, United States of America. As you can tell from this chart, it shows the U.S. giving over $11 billion over 3 years. This is triple, quadruple, 10 to 20 times what other countries were given. And this is in earlier years. We give a lot more today. But I wanted to show you this chart because it specifically shows who the biggest funder of the United Nations is, and that's the U.S. Here's another chart that asks the question, how much does, quote, peacekeeping cost? Funny thing is, they've never brought peace here in America, yet we're paying for this fake kind of peacekeeping effort. No, we're paying for their disarmament effort of the entire American people. They want us disarmed. But needless to say, guess who is once again on the top? That's the United States with 28.57%. That is triple pretty much every other country. And the one who comes close, well, China, communist China, 10.29% there. And then it just goes down at that point. What does that tell me? Well, the U.S. does not need the UN. The UN needs the U.S. You see, because the U.S. is providing them all the money to do the evil things and good things, because there's good and evil. It comes out of every organization. They got to mix in a little good. But the things that they are doing, they are using American money. And I can guarantee you that they are not about to let that money go. Now, with them shaking in their boots over Donald Trump's presidency. I know that they are worried like no get out that he's going to take some of that money away from this dictator body known as the UN. They also are afraid that he's going to leave the UN. Now, this has been in news reports. You can Google it and check it out. But nonetheless, I did a report the other day on the World Economic Forum, who did a whole 75-page report with Trump mentioned, I think it was around 10 to 13 times, that he was specifically addressed because he is anti-globalist. He is a nationalist, and how nationalism is bad. Well, we know the World Economic Forum is linked with the United Nations. There's multiple bodies like that are linked in some way, shape, or form. But needless to say, they're not happy. And I do foresee what happens when you tick off a bunch of people at the UN who are worried about getting their money lost. Well, that could cause some pretty serious repercussions for our president. Now, check out this report from WND.com titled, "There is a war coming between the United States and the United Nations." Now, it is in this report that they detail how, and I believe it was put out back in late December, but they detail how there is going to be a tension and a rift between the United States and the United Nations, specifically in regards to the Israeli settlements. When they condemned the settlements that are in certain parts of Israel, and Obama sat back and abstained and said nothing while he allowed this thing to pass. Well, we know that Donald Trump has different and varying views on that, and different and varying views also on where our U.S. embassy should be, which he wants to move to Jerusalem, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. But needless to say, there's a big rift there, and there's some tension that's already rising between the United States and the United Nations. But we must keep in mind, we don't need the UN. The UN needs the United States. That's a big problem, and something we need to focus on, because we always have to follow the money trail. Now, there's another enemy that could retaliate, and that is China. We know Donald Trump has been talking about trade deals and trading specifically in regards to China. And while this is pulling up some rifts for this communist creep of a dictator, check out this report from Time.com. Donald Trump could be starting a new Cold War with China. And then they go on to say that he has little chance of winning. Lots of enthusiasm there, Time. Hello, don't you live in America? Have a little more patriotism for your country. Needless to say, here's another report that I found on SouthChinaMorningPost.com. China preparing to hit back if Trump starts trade war, says United States Business Group. And finally, Forbes.com, war with China, ? Effects of a U.S. blockade in the South China Sea. But all of these reports say or detail some pretty crazy things when it's specifically talking in regards to China. Well, we know Donald Trump is talking about fixing what we have with China, because look, there's a lot of crap that China is pushing with us, and in my opinion, we're getting the loose end of the barrel here. We're getting screwed by China. Let's just put it that way. They already own portions of our country here in America, and this is why we allow them to screw us in the back end. China screwing America over and over and over again. So we also see that China is in second place on the list of donors for, well, the United Nations. And here we have two big heads that are members of the United Nations butting heads, and two biggest money donors for the United Nations. Now, why is that? Well, I'll leave that for you to ponder on. But needless to say, we need to watch the rift. We need to watch the UN and not take our eyes off of that. While Donald Trump is signing executive orders, he's got the Keystone pipeline that he's dealing with. He's got, he's going to attack voter fraud. That's his recent thing. He's going to really focus on and crack down on voter fraud, which is an amazing thing. He's passed many executive orders, put out many memorandums that are ticking off a lot of globalists, ticking off a lot of people. And, we need to stand firm, because we need our country back. We need America back. And I don't want to be ruled by an international body of unelected officials that tell us what to do in America and what we can and can't do, who want to enforce carbon taxes on your air. Technically, you breathe in, you breathe out what? Carbon dioxide. So they want to push a lot of these taxes on the American people. And that's what they want to do. And they want to take away our sovereignty, and we can't allow that to happen. So we have to stand with Donald Trump. We have to stand with what he's doing, but we cannot get our eyes off of the globalists. We cannot get our eyes off of what the UN is doing. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning into my channel here. Please don't forget to check out my partners at www.getthetea.com. He's got lots of amazing supplements. One that I really enjoy is the vitamin C here. And great stuff, very powerful. 10 drops is equivalent to 180 milligrams. So very powerful stuff, and it gets right in the system because it is the liquid form. Also, I have 8th Element here. This stuff is great and amazing. It helps with your body. It helps keep everything in line for immune support, but really amazing product. Make sure you check that out. You can see I've been taking it pretty low there, but anyhow, also please make sure you're prepped and ready with food storage. Foodforliberty.com/Haven. You never know when the crap's gonna hit the fan. And look, we've got all these crazy people just nuts. We have the United Nations and what's going on with them. And look, their form of retaliation, maybe they won't retaliate, but if you follow the money trail, there's a lot at stake, billions and billions of dollars, some of their biggest donors, and they don't like Donald Trump. They don't want him up, and they don't want nationalism. They want money in their pockets so they can continue to run their disarmament agenda, their climate agenda, and put themselves in charge of the world. That's what it's about. And we know, according to end-time biblical prophecy, that there is a dictator force that wants to take over the world, so to speak, a new world order. The Antichrist will rule over every tribe, tongue, and nation, and that's what we're seeing building up to at the United Nations. It's a scary place to be. And so their retaliation, like I said, it might take multiple forms. We don't know exactly how that will play out or if and when it will, but needless to say, they're not going to be happy if Donald Trump takes any of that money away. Now, at this time, Donald Trump is not planning on removing all the money from the UN, but they are scared no matter what because he is a nationalist. So make sure you're prepped and ready with food storage. I use foodforliberty.com/Haven. Please make sure you're prepared because we don't know what they're going to unleash in the very near future. So make sure you're prepped with that. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven signing out.